I got a very interesting message in my DMs after I shared an opinion that I had, and the message read as follows. Please have me on your dying show so I can tear you to shreds, you lunatic loser. I and clearly no one else wants to work with you. You're a repellent, but I'll do you and the rest of the world a favor and tear you apart once and for all, so no one needs to hear from you again. That person has shown up. You win the award of having sent by a long shot the most inappropriate message I received. Would the Rebbe approve of this message?
Absolutely not. I think the main thing that triggered me was the words, if this is what makes me a snag, then I'm a snag and I'm proud.
Putting on tefillin is one of the most holy mitzvahs that we have. There's a certain point where something becomes a mockery of a mitzvah. If you want to call me a snag for having this particular opinion, I am fine being called a snag.
To be clear, I personally never called you a snag. I called you other things.
You'd be much better off if you called me a snag, probably. It's easy to talk behind a keyboard.
So I'm here to have a conversation with you.
If you say anything negative against Chabad, they will come at you. All of them. The fact that Chabad is so unified is a beautiful thing. Every single strength has a weakness component to it.
I also want to attribute some of that to the culture of social media.
I think people will be a lot far better in their lives adapting a policy and a belief system of there are certain things that, even though they're good, there are times we don't do those things.
So you'll use us when you need to travel. We do something wrong that pushes the pedal a little bit. Oh my God, Chabad's doing this and you're being marachik people from Yiddishkeit and this. And it's like, hey dude, you just had Barney in my house.
I actually hear that a lot. Chabad women are hot, by the way. Bravo. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Mislaibeled. All right, so this is going to be a little bit different than what we normally have. For those who follow me on Instagram, you recall potentially, probably not like 6-7 weeks ago, I got a very interesting message in my DMs after I shared an opinion that I had regarding a video that went viral with Chabad people putting tefillin, shluchim, I believe, or people, yeah, shluchim, whatever. Baruch putting tefillin on a person wearing a kfiah. We could assume he's Jewish. Let's take it, at face value for right now that he's Jewish. He was wearing a kfiah and he was walking in a rally in the city. And this video went viral. And I shared an opinion on Twitter that I did not think that it was respectful to be putting tefillin on someone in that particular situation. I listed a variety of different reasons, of which I'm happy to go through shortly. And I'm sure will come up in this conversation, but I received a message from someone that I don't know at all. And the message read as follows. It said, please have me on your dying show so I can tear you to shreds, you lunatic loser. I and clearly no one else wants to work with you. You're a repellent, but I'll do you and the rest of the world a favor and tear you apart once and for all, so no one needs to hear from you again. Disrespectfully, yours truly. So I put this on, a screenshot of this on my Instagram, and I told the person they are more than welcome to come on the show and talk to me, and respect, that person has shown up. First, in fairness, wanted a whole bunch of different things to happen if he came on. Obviously, I said no, such as having to shut down the show. Not going to happen. He wanted to come on, and out of respect, he's here. So, welcome. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Peretz, is that accurate?
Peretz Ben Chiyun.
Peretz Ben Chiyun. Nice to meet you, Peretz, really. Okay, so obviously it's clear that you have a host of issues with myself, which I'm very happy to discuss. The first thing I would just get to is, I guess, ask, you're Chabad, I take it?
Yes.
You're Chabad. So my first question is simply, would the Rebbe approve of this message?
Absolutely not.
He wouldn't. Okay, fine. So what are your thoughts on this message, given that you sent it to me?
Let me just clean my glasses. Get right to it.
Take your time, brother. There is no rush. There is no rush.
So there could be a whole like you said, a whole host of things. I think what it comes down to is heat of the moment. You're sitting there. I'm a Chabad guy. I'm seeing there. I think the main thing that triggered me was the words that like I keep on playing in my head was, if this is what makes me a snag, then I'm a snag and I'm proud. That is what really got me to reply to the message and kind of overshadowed what you said previously. And then when going on Twitter, seeing you actually said that you do appreciate Chabad, you like Chabad, I was like, okay, interesting. Okay, maybe there's a conversation that could be had. But first and foremost, I thought it was very ironic about that I sent you that message and then I said those words that I want to tear you to shreds, because the next day was Yom Kippur. and I'm sitting there by Kol Nidre, and my father's a shliach. We have a Chabad house in Chicago. I'm chazan. I'm sitting there, and my father starts, and I never heard him say this story, and he starts his speech before Kol Nidre, before I'm about to go up, by saying a story of the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. Do you know who the Baal Shem Tov is?
I very much do.
Amazing. So the Baal Shem Tov calls his Hasidim into a room, makes them put their hands around their shoulders, around everybody's shoulder, and makes them meditate, has them meditate. And what they see in the meditation is two Jews tearing each other to shreds, physically tearing each other to shreds. And obviously, after seeing that vision, they were very disturbed. And they asked the Baal Shem Tov, like, what is this? What's the meaning of this? Baal Shem Tov answers them and says, there were two Jews in this shul, in our shul. One of them looks at the other one, and in the heat of the moment, in a fight, said, I want to tear you apart like I tear a fish apart. And the Baal Shem Tov said that it didn't physically happen, but I want to show you what could happen in the higher worlds just by using words, just by words that are being used to another Jew by saying that I want to tear you apart like I tear a fish apart. And it was very eye-opening to me and ironic to me that the day after I said that personally to another Jew, my father says this at our Chabad house to a whole group of Jews, which I think was pretty cool.
Sounds like a real Hasidic Shemaisa.
Very Hasidic Shemaisa. So, with that being said, I'm happy that I'm here. I'm happy to meet you. Happy to have a conversation. But I think one Jew sitting down to tear another Jew apart is wrong. Saying that I want to sit down to tear you apart is wrong. And I think for that to happen, God forbid, is what people who hate us would want to see that. They would want to see clips of two Jews trying to tear each other apart. Not that you said that you would want to tear me apart, but yeah, I think that would be stupid. So I'm here to have a conversation with you. Like here.
So
here,
I guess my biggest question is just what about anything for that matter that I said warrants an emotional response. Forget about this because I think it's clear from what you're saying is that you agree that this was not warranted really under any circumstances. That's what it sounds like. But I still would love to understand what I said warrants a emotional reaction of disdain, negativity, what you're angry about is probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, so I think it could be a couple things. Number one, it's wrong. So there's no, the main thing, like I said, was I'm a snag and I'm proud. I think for me also, I grew up in Chicago. I didn't grow up in a frum community. Our family has a Chabad house in the city, and there's not a lot of frum people there. The only frum people there are people that Baruch Hashem, my dad, Mekarv. And whenever I would go to my friend's house for Shabbos, let's say, which is in the frum community, and the frum community in Chicago is very mixed in where everyone lives. The Litvish live, Lubavitch, everyone lives kind of pretty much in the same area, at least when I was growing up. Maybe a little more separate now, I'm not 100% sure. But the word snag and the word and the division that I feel like it can create, especially when you said that you liked Chabad. So, and I saw that afterwards. So I was like, okay, or maybe he said that in the heat of the moment, maybe he doesn't. And I think the word misnagid also, it goes back to the hisnagdus originally when the Alter Rebbe started Chabad Hasidus and what they did to his family, what they said about what they said about him. And I thought just at that point, the reason why, if you ask like what triggered an emotional response, is because that makes me very emotional. Being a Chabad, somebody who grew up Chabad and is proud of being Chabad, and seeing somebody say, I'm proud to, if this is what makes me a snag, then I'm proud to be one. That's why I emotionally reacted.
Can I ask you a question? If I said that me saying that I like apples makes me a snag and therefore I'm proud of it, does that also get you angry?
No.
Okay, so
no, because it was about this specific situation that there's a Chabad bacher going out of his way. He's going, and in what my opinion, we could get into this. This is where we could get into what he was doing.
Yeah, sure.
Going and doing something, and I feel like Chabad in general is at the forefront of the fight in general. To bring more Yiddishkeit to the world, to give Jews opportunities to do mitzvahs. And it just felt like instead of using the opportunity of the moment to say, okay, this is something I'm uncomfortable with, I disagree with, putting tefillin on somebody that's wearing a kfiah is not my cup of tea. But hey, I want you guys to know I do like Chabad. This is just something that I'm not into. Instead of using the if this is what makes me sad, then I'm proud to be. And it could be that you said that based on a lot of Chabad guys reaching out to you in your DMs.
Saying that if this is what makes me a snag, then I'm fine being a snag is saying like if I think a man is a woman in 2024, right? And that makes, right, if I think a man is a man, despite them wanting to be called a woman, and that makes me a misogynist or a anti-trans person and a transphobic person or something, then I'm fine being called a transphobic person. I mean, I'm very comfortable with this stance if this is the label that's, no pun intended, that is attributed to me. Meaning, if you guys want to go out on a limb and decide to call me a name, right, because I have an opinion, and that's what you want to choose to do, then that's fine. The same way if perhaps you want to call me a snag for any host of reasons, even if maybe it was something so random. Like I said, if I had an opinion that I liked apples and therefore that would make me a snag, I'd be totally fine being called a snag. That doesn't mean that I think that what I'm saying is a negative thing per se, but I do believe, and I am quite confident, this is really my point, that there's a strong angle with Chabad, and you see this in the world at large now, okay, of trying to character assassinate by throwing labels at people, and people are scared to be called those things, and therefore would never, God forbid, have an opinion, because if they had an opinion, even if it's a unique, scenario where they have an opinion on, where really for the most part they have no problem and are very pro a particular group or whatever it is, but if you say anything against them, then you
Against
get thrown.
Chabad, you're saying?
Any group, no matter what. It's the same exact thing with, really, you see this in politics a lot now, right? If you have an opinion that, let's just say you support Donald Trump, then you're called a bigot. So I would say to that, then I am fine being called a bigot in that scenario. And that's exactly what I'm saying here, that if you want to label me a snag for having a opinion on an outlier situation, right, where I am saying that when someone is wearing a kfiah, while they're walking in a rally, when we don't know if they're Jewish, when there's a host of no bracha being made, blah, 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 that I think this is inappropriate, if you people in Chabad want to call me a snag for having this particular opinion, I am fine being called a snag.
Which, by the way, to be clear, I personally never called you a snag. I called you other things, but I never
you're
called you a
saying,
snag.
I mean, you'd be much better off if you called me a snag, probably. but I mean, you did a lot worse. But the point is, you're saying that is what stirred up an emotional reaction, right? Yes. That is what got you all in a tizzy. And I'm saying, right, I stand by that comment. If I am being, actually, you were the perfect example. Exactly what you did is the perfect exact reason why I said that, because nothing could be more true than this statement that I made. You would want to call me a snag, and I would respond to you, I have no fucking problem being called a snag. That would literally be my response to you. And that pissed you off because what am I going to call him if I can't call him a snag? He already has no problem being called a snag.
No, that's not where I was coming from with it. I already addressed kind of what triggered me to say that. I see completely where you're coming from it now, that why you said that, just about the character assassination, that if somebody with a platform says something on their channel, their Instagram, and then everyone is going to use that to character assassinate them based on something they said. And if this is your definition of however it is, fine. I completely understand what you meant by saying what you said. You want to call me this, you want to call me transphobe, whatever it is, call me whatever you want. I believe in common sense. I believe in whatever I believe in. This is what it is. Call it whatever you want. That's
correct.
fine. The way I read it was the way I read it was different than how you obviously intended.
I'm not sure. It was actually extremely clear. It was literally laid out.
It was very clear from your end, but we're talking about how I emotionally reacted to that, right. And I'm coming from my own as a follower, and I'm coming from my own experiences and seeing that what you wrote. I
mean, I actually think it's very, very telling, because I think this actually leads into a very strong point, and I think if there's one issue that I find with people from Chabad, it is actually this exact point. You guys are highly, highly emotionally driven about anything that comes in line with Chabad issues. So if there's and perhaps this is because of past abuse towards the Chabad sect, obviously, right? The Hasidus, the Rebbe, whatever, the whole 9 yards of it. The 80s, 90s, whatever, you can imagine, right? The yeshiva with the Litvish world versus, right, their fight with Chabad, right, as opposed to, let's just say, even the Litvish world against any other Hasidus, because there was obviously a lot more tension there with Chabad. But whenever something does come up, there does not seem to be a strong ability for, I don't want to classify everyone, but for a lot of people, there does not seem to be a strong ability to react with anything other than emotion, and to be rigorously and intellectually honest, and listen and hear, but instead immediately rush to, like, there's no scenario whatsoever that can possibly exist that's not okay. There's zero. I've had many of these encounters, and
can you give me one for an example that besides why we're sitting here, but an example that you feel like that Chabad as a whole in general is doing that? When they're given, what do you mean?
I didn't say as a whole. I said there's a lot of scenarios that I have witnessed.
Is that something that you're seeing, like
in your
in your DMs, meaning like that when there's a host of cases, just things that you're posting about, you get certain responses, and then when there's a Chabad situation going on, then you have a different host of responses.
I think a lot of people would agree that if you say anything negative against Chabad, and there's a pro to this, by the way, they will come at you. All of them. There's more than any. Bobov's not coming at me.
What was your
Satmar's not coming. They don't give a flying
shit. What was your reaction
when
Candace Owens came at the Rebbe? Just curious.
Candace Owens? She's so irrelevant. I could literally give a shit what she has to say. Like, I don't know, nothing. I don't have a response. Like, it would be the exact same response of what she had if she came after my rabbi. It's like,
I was wondering if you were using that as an example of somebody coming at Chabad and everyone going crazy.
No, hold on one second. I'm fine if the whole Klal Yisrael wants to stand up to an anti-Semite. I'm very much in favor of that. I'm talking about within the religious world. If something is said negative about Chabad, such as if any actual example, like if you come at, this is a little bit more, this probably might not be a good example, so I don't want to derail my point with it, but like I'm just saying, like if you were to go and say something negative about Mashiachists, right, or whatever, or hit the Chabad, they would, I don't know all of them because a lot of people are now uncomfortable with it, because it's been so widely, like, it's hard to be a full-fledged Mashiachist nowadays. Like, there are people obviously that are, but like, that's something that obviously to a large degree is a harder fight. But I'm saying in general, if there's a criticism towards
So why
Chabad,
do you think that is?
What?
Why do you think that is, that people are reacting emotionally when it comes to Chabad?
Oh, I have no idea. I gave why do I think what is the Chabad people react so emotionally?
Based on what you're saying. Meaning, like, do you have an idea?
I gave a theory originally 5 minutes ago, that perhaps it's because of the fact that Chabad has experienced, let's call it, a lot of abuse from the Litvish world and the Hasidic world. Really, Chabad is more of I don't know if outcast is the right word, but it's a very, very unique Hasidus. They had the whole issue with the Mashiachas thing that obviously put them really, really... But it was going on even before that, and there's been a lot there. So I think there's a level of insecurity towards the fact that a lot of Chabad's modalities is the wrong word, but a lot of Chabad's way of doing unique, like specific things are very much not widely done, and a lot of them are not widely accepted.
It pushes the
I was saying putting tefillin on everyone, for example, was a outlying idea that the Rebbe said, right? That there's no other, for good or for bad. I'm not giving a stamp. Who cares what I think? I'm just saying, for good or for bad, there's not one other sect in Judaism ever, right, that puts tefillin on everyone.
Now it actually changed a lot. I think, tell me if I'm wrong, I think in the Livish community, at least in Israel, there's a big tefillin campaigns that actually I've been seeing.
I can't speak to Israel. I don't live there, and I have no
actually,
idea.
Beautifully in the south, like hundreds and hundreds of pairs of tefillin that they're giving out.
It's possible. They're giving out to soldiers? To who?
To anybody.
Yeah, right
Soldiers,
now,
anybody.
but they're not putting it on random people.
Right. No,
So
they're giving out pairs
shluch-
of tefillin, yes.
Yeah, but that's a whole different thing. That doesn't
So I had an idea based on what you're saying, and I really want to talk more about the actual situation with the Kfiah and
please.
how I felt about that. But just one idea that maybe you could relate to was through just from when we had that initial reaction and then now, just an idea that came to my head was it could be the Chabad people. And first of all, there is a big distinction, at least for me, between people who grew up Chabad in the Chabad communities and Shluchim's kids that didn't grow up in Chabad communities. And anybody who's watching this who's a Shliach's kid will 100% relate to what I'm saying. We could literally go on a whole podcast for that. Just it's a whole other conversation. So there's a big distinction there. With regards to Shluchim's kids, I feel like, and kids who grew up on Shluchus and what that means and having people in your home and very little privacy and all that, one thing that they could relate to or be more sensitive to what you're saying is, I think in the 21st century, when traveling became a big thing in the Jewish community, the new generation started traveling everywhere. And Chabad, after Gimel Tammuz, exponentially grew everywhere in the world. People, maybe in the Livish community, in the non-Chabad community, started seeing like, oh wow, I actually have a place to daven, I have a place to eat kosher food wherever I go, I have a place to have a minyan, and then they're like, oh wow, this is cool, I have a place to go. So they see the beauty in that, and then not only that, they're in Chabad houses because they're spending the Shabbos there, they're spending the weekend there. They're like, oh my God, they do amazing work. They're not saying crazy things. They're not waving Mashiach flags everywhere. They're not saying this, Wow, they're actually good, meaning people that are wanting to do kirov in the world. That's a beautiful thing.
Right.
And I think where people could get sensitive is, okay, so you'll use us when you need to travel. You'll reach out to us. You'll donate. You won't donate or whatever it is. And then the one thing we do something wrong that pushes the pedal a little bit. Oh my God, Chabad's doing this, and you're being marachik people from Yiddishkeit and this. And it's like, hey, dude, you just had Friday night in my house last night. You played with
I actually hear that a lot, by the way. I hear that point significantly. So, I really do. I'm not just saying that. That's a very good point.
So that's just one thing.
All right, everybody. Just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor for this episode, CubX. CubX is an IT company that personally does my own IT. I've recommended these guys to multiple of my friends. They have come back with nothing but rave reviews. These guys have fantastic customer service. There are no hold times. You call, you get through, they fix your problem immediately, and they are truly a group of talented IT professionals. They service specifically companies of 5 employees or more. They have a special division for companies with 500 employees or more, and a additional division specifically dedicated to the healthcare field, which is an area that they particularly specialize in. If you'd like to get through to them, you can reach them at 732-444-8771. Press 2 to get through to the sales department. You can also email them at hello@cubx.com. That's hello@cubx.com. You can also check them up online at cubx.com. Again, that's cubx.com. If you're a new company that's starting out and need a great IT team, definitely reach out to these guys. Or if you're an existing company that is currently not happy with your existing IT firm, I would highly recommend this group. Thank you so much, guys. Back to the episode.
I think should we go to Kfiah?
No, I mean my thing I would just say to that is that
go ahead.
At the end of the day, the main thing to me is the emotional response, because the emotional response like that to me signals, in my opinion, insecurity. Because really, if someone has an opinion that you don't agree with, it's like, all right, you don't agree with me.
But
you're still welcome. You could come. It doesn't mean I don't agree with everything. I don't agree with this particular thing, and like that's it. And there's something else there that there's a there's a inability. Listen, I'll tell you something. I grew up in an actually somewhat similar situation. What do I mean by that? In a way, I'll explain to you. Not obviously the exact same, but I grew up. My entire family is heavy Chofetz Chaim. Now, Chofetz Chaim, there's people joke around that they have similarities to Chabad because they're crazy about the Torah, and obviously they're not as big as Chabad by any means, but they have yeshivas all over America, blah, 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 and all these places, right? Now, Chofetz Chaim is very much also entrenched in their own way of doing things. Their way in their mind is the only way. And the same way I grew up there, and every person that I see, I say, get your head out of your ass. You do not have the only way, is the exact same way. By the way, they do a lot of things very well, and they're really, really nice. But they're not right about every single thing. Like that, they're not. And I would say the exact same thing about Chabad. They're also not right about every single thing. But yet, both sides have an inability at the end of the day when there's something that is said that they're doing that a person doesn't believe is, I don't know, not correct, whatever. Someone has an opinion that goes counter to what they personally believe. There is an explosion in a volcano of like everyone has to get in on like, you're 1,000% wrong, blah, 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 you're this, you're that. And it's just like, I don't know, dude. Like, what are you talking about? Like, People can have an opinion that you don't agree with. You'll be okay, and you can keep on going with your merry life and do your thing. Like, it's fine. No one's stopping you from doing the exact same thing tomorrow. I'm just allowed to have an opinion as well. That's
For
fine.
sure. Two things. One of them I just forgot, but the other thing, I think it also is a thing about social media. In your history of being on social media and having a platform, if you never sent a message to somebody that you regretted, or that you were like, okay, fine, that doesn't reflect what I really mean. You said something in the heat of the moment to somebody.
In fairness, I'll be totally...
Or a text,
I
not
will
even just
be
social media.
100% honest with you. You win the award of having sent, by a long shot, the most inappropriate message I received.
No, but I'm
Like,
asking you.
I'll give that to you.
But I'm asking you. I mean,
No.
have you ever, even in sports, are you a sports fan?
I'm a sports fan, yes. I mean, not a
Like,
sports fan. I know sports, but I'm not like...
You said you're an athlete f's up your parlay. You're like,
well, first of all, I wouldn't bother messaging an athlete because that would be a waste of my finger space because he's not going to actually read it. But no, I think the actual ultimate component of a human being is being in control of one's emotions. That is actually what makes a truly complete human. If you want to talk about shlemus,
okay, and
it's
you've
not
never,
about intellect. It's
and
about...
you've never lost your temper. You've never been in complete, not been in complete control of your emotions in your life.
Oh, there are times I've lost control of my emotions. I'm not God, but I'm saying there's.
So
I think there's levels
I'm
of
saying
everything.
as a product, you were saying that it's specific to Chabad, potentially, to the flack that you're getting on certain posts, and I think
No,
that
that's
could be
post.
true.
That's the only post. I'm saying that as a general theme I have seen
That
with
you've
Chabad,
seen.
that they have a very hard time and a big inability to take any criticism.
Okay, so
That's all.
so
Just as a general group
that
of
could be
people.
fair, and I that could be fair, and I also want to attribute some of that to the culture of social media and people being upset, and I think especially now it's very, very heightened time. Just
There's
in
a
general.
nice. I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's a nice thing about that, by the way. The fact that Chabad is so unified is a beautiful thing.
Everyone's
That's
coming up.
also what allows them to do the work they do. There's a deep sense of camaraderie within Chabad and a deep fight within them to keep carrying out the Rebbe's mission. That's a very nice thing. No one is saying that every single strength has a weakness component to it. So I would just say I understand. I think the strength part of it is beautiful, but that exact same strength can also be used for a very big weakness. So that's all I'm saying.
So then the other thing is that you're saying that there's a big, in general, and from communities, inability to say, okay, not everything we do is right here, not everything we do is right here. Wouldn't you argue that us sitting down right here together, you come from Chafetz Chaim, I come from a Chabad house, Shliach's house, grew up on Shlichus, we're sitting right here, right in front of each other, let's change it.
Change what?
Let's change this attitude of not being able to converse, not being able to admit when we're wrong, not being able to.
I mean, in fairness, I didn't do anything. I've been this way till now. We're only sitting here because of your message. Like, I could converse and I talk to everyone. I have no problem. Hence, I told you, come on the podcast. If you have such a problem, come on, talk.
Amazing. So, so we're here.
But yeah, if you want to talk about the Kfiah thing specifically, so I can elaborate further, since it seems to be an extremely complicated opinion that people cannot wrap their head around. Despite how many times it has to be written and said, I'm happy if you have any questions surrounding that specific.
Yeah, I think it would be important just if you could clarify your opinion on that when you saw it, or right now what your opinion on it is, and then I can say my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. So my opinion is that I don't particularly have an opinion on all the details of like. The specifics of what Chabad does, putting on tefillin, pushing people to do mitzvahs, whatever, any of that stuff, I'm very, I don't know what the right word is. I have no particular opinions. I don't know enough about Torah to have specific opinions on what the Rebbe said versus what the next person says, the next Rav, whatever it is. Like, okay, let them hash that out. I'm a podcaster and a real estate guy. I'm not a rabbi, right? At the same time, so for the most part, given that's the case, while it may not be what I grew up with, all right, nice. You know something? I hear the other side. If we could get, you never know at the end of the day, which is the standard point. But of course, every single yid, and this is the part I think that the Litvish world would miss 100%. And I'd agree with, is that there's a internal, the neshama is the spiritual being of the person, right? And that spiritual being is greater, right, than any physical component that we're seeing, right? It exists one time and one time only for forever in the creation of history, right? There will never be another Parrots, again, your neshama will never, ever happen again. Neither will label wieners. And that is a extremely, extremely powerful thing. So you never know what exact scenario can come up, right, that can change someone and elevate the neshama. In agreement. So you know something? While I grew up in a world of far-right Litvish world, I could understand how they're missing that. And anytime we can get someone to do a mitzvah, we should try to, because the neshama's starving for it, fine. With that being said, I would also say that everything has limits in life. Everything. And in that particular case, while I didn't necessarily have a problem with the guy even wearing a kfiah, I didn't really care about that. In fact, even if we didn't know if the guy's Jewish, I don't know, right? Whatever. You can make arguments, you didn't say it. But I guess I would say that my main point on this would be that the biggest issue that I had with that, let me phrase it this way, I'm sorry. While the Hasidic world focuses very much on the spiritual aspect of the human, like I was just explaining, right? And the strength of the neshama, I would also say that the only thing they take into account is the spirituality of the neshama. They do not take into account, in my opinion, the kedusha and spirituality of the actual mitzvah. So
you're saying like chagas, like Breslev.
No, meaning I'm saying that putting on tefillin, right, is one of the greatest, most holy mitzvahs that we have. And we can all agree that there are scenarios where, I mean, the Shulchan Aruch lists a multitude of them, where you are not allowed to put on tefillin due to the kedusha of the mitzvah and the holiness of the mitzvah. So the same way you have how powerful the neshama is, you have on the flip side the power of the mitzvah of tefillin, which is why the Rebbe, by the way, to begin with, has everyone running around putting on tefillin, because of the power of the mitzvah, right? And a mitzvah. So you have to also take into account, in my opinion, the power of the mitzvah. This is not a guy making a bracha. This is tefillin. This is like a whole different league, right? Of, you have Shema on your head. It's a very, very serious thing. People literally, not to sound crazy, people risk putting on the tefillin in the concentration. Like that was the ultimate risk to go do that mitzvah versus anything else. So my point is that like, while the spiritual side always just wants to look at, the Hasidic side, just look at the person, there's a lack of focus on the Kedusha of the mitzvah.
What this actually is here.
The Kedusha of the mitzvah, right? And what disgrace or degradation could come to the actual Kedusha of the mitzvah, right? On the flip side, I would say the Litvish world, the only thing they're focused on is the Kedusha of the mitzvah and not focused on the human being at all. Now,
By the way, can I just ask you a quick question? When you say Hasidim, you include Chabad in that? Because when I hear Hasidim, I hear Satmar,
I'm definitely including Chabad in this.
You are? Okay, fine.
Sure.
I thought you were going to say difference.
It as a general term, but for sure Chabad.
I thought you were going to say the difference between the different Hasidim and what they focus on.
I apologize.
Because that could be a big point here between.
I mean, we could just call this Chabad. We don't have to call it. Everything I just said, we can refer to as Chabad.
Okay.
And I'm saying that in this particular scenario, given the multitude of factors that happen, and for me the biggest one wasn't wearing a kfiah. If a guy you pull a guy to the side and he makes a bracha and he puts it on wearing a kfiah, okay, fine. Listen, maybe the guy's lost. Who knows? But when a guy is walking showing zero interest in putting on tefillin, zero, right? And he's not making a bracha, and there's a certain point where something becomes a mockery of a mitzvah. And the idea that, we're just getting him a mitzvah loses its weight and holding when the mitzvah is becoming a mockery. And not every single case, okay, is the same. And not every single case should, in my opinion, and I don't think this is a crazy thing, should tefillin be put on someone. And the same way that the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah list a whole bunch of cases where you're not allowed to put on tefillin, which I can make a strong argument are less of a disgrace than walking down the street on an anti-Israel, pro-Hamas rally wearing a kfiah, not paying attention, not making a bracha. Like the list, right? If you're wearing tefillin, you're not allowed to write past gas when you're wearing tefillin. Oh, what's the big deal? I'll just give a little. What? You're not right. There's a reason for it. Yeah, the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Berurah did not have the ability to foresee 450 years ahead that there would be a guy that would be walking down the street, not making a bracha. That doesn't mean that I can't use my intellect and logic to make an opinion that at the very least is debatable. At the very least, and that does not warrant a uproar from Chabad of, oh my gosh, you're crazy, da 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 da, every single thing is okay regarding anything you do with tefillin, okay? To me, that's just being an emotionally reactive person that's not listening to the actual argument at hand. That doesn't mean that I'm saying that if a guy's wearing a kfiah that you shouldn't put tefillin on him, sure. That doesn't mean if he's by a rally you shouldn't put tefillin on him, sure. But there can be a scenario where a billion things are happening at once, and it's just like, all right, this is a little bit too much. Like, perhaps we should just pull him to the side and for 1 minute get him, maybe, I don't know the halacha, maybe if he didn't say the bracha, even though he's supposed to, but at least there's some, like, I saw another picture of someone who was wearing kfiyah, and they gave him, and there's a shliach having this, it was a woman, I believe, or man, I don't remember, but shaking lulav. But the scene was a totally different scene. The woman was standing there talking to him, trying to get understanding of how to do the mitzvah. That's a beautiful thing. Fine, great, no problem. But just again, to put a brush over everything and say that every single thing is okay and there can't be a scenario that's not, to me, is just extremely, is a sign of an extremely emotionally reactive outcome. That's all it is. It doesn't, to me, and answering that there's not an official halacha against walking up, that's just being disingenuous. Like that's all it is to me. Yeah, correct. When you're putting on your own tefillin while you're walking, right? Like if I'm walking to shul and I'm putting on tefillin on my way, yeah, I agree with you. Then that's me putting on the tefillin for myself, clearly with intention of putting on tefillin. That would be very different than me walking and looking like 4 Hatzalah guys are coming to save me by giving me CPR while they're trying to put tefillin on me. It's not, to me, the same thing. That's probably how I would say it the most. So I would say the biggest issue to leave off wasn't the kfiyah at all. It wasn't even the rally. It was probably the fact it was just the overall scene of it. It's just the scene. That's it. It was the fact he was walking. The guy just didn't give a flying shit. And it's like, no, we could. It's okay if there are certain scenarios where we put our foot down and we're just like, something, not every single thing. And that's a good, I think, lesson for life across the board. There's nothing wrong. I think people will be a lot far better in their lives adapting a policy and a belief system of there are certain things that, even though they're good, there are times we don't do those things. And I think those things, if you think about it, apply to really everything in your own life as well. And most people, that's all.
So thank you for eloquently saying that. I think a lot of where Chabad is coming from with this, or a lot of people's reactions, or me personally, I'm not here to speak for Chabad, on behalf of Chabad. Nobody pointed me. I'm just here. I think is actually the beauty of what you're saying is there is the intellectual part and then there's the emotional part, and I think that's where Chabad comes in and combines both, and that's actually what tefillin is, combining the heart and the mind, bringing them together. With regards to this specific case, and I think just in general, the alacrity to just go and put tefillin on people and whatever the situation is just to just go is, and I think this is a very real thing, and at least this is where I'm at in life, not necessarily with putting tefillin on people, but where I am in life when it comes to Yiddishkeit and promoting that and standing up for it, is that we are, and I really believe that a lot of Chabad people would back me up on this and agree with me, is that we are in a time of war right now in the world. We're in a time of war in Israel right now, with what's going on. We're a time of war everywhere in the world, where Jews are being attacked as a mainstream thing, physically, spiritually, everywhere, just everywhere. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, it's obvious. It's a factual statement.
So I think when it comes to that, we're being a time of war. That's where I feel like a lot of the alacrity to just go and do it is coming from.
That's great.
Now, and in a time of war, I would say that is what's a war? It's a time of pikuach nefesh. And you were saying that there's that the Shulchan Aruch didn't see in advance 400 years later that a guy walking with a kfiyah is going to walk down. But the Shulchan Aruch did say that just like in a physical time, just like when somebody's Jew's physical danger is at stake, you can suspend halacha to. So
you were trying to make the argument that there's
let me make the argument.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
That somebody is somebody's physical danger, a Jew's physical danger, you could suspend halacha to go and do that, to go and save a Jew, just like it is so in his Jew's spiritual danger, you can go and suspend halacha in order to save that Jew. Now, my point here isn't to make the case that you can go and start suspending halacha in every case and whatever you want and using your own discretion everywhere to go and do everything. I think there's a place for what you're saying in general to like have the checks and balances and like where are we going? What are we doing? Hey, let's do things menschlich. Let's have kavod to the mitzvah. I agree with that. But I think where it came from and where the Chabad way is coming from is to go and to connect the heart and the mind, and especially when it's in a place of war, when we're in a time of of just literal just people losing themselves, you could make the argument that somebody that's walking with a kfiah, I know that wasn't that your big thing, but somebody that's walking with a kfiah in a Palestinian rally is somebody that is the biggest, most prime example of pikuach nefesh, somebody that is going through, clearly he's lost. He thinks he's standing there for humanity and for child rights and for human rights, and he's clearly misguided. And I think for somebody to go and put tefillin and just go and ignite that person's neshama to what he really is. Now, what actually happened, he wasn't able to say the bracha or this, that. But going out and I think, but doing that in the,
first of all, yeah, with any of
1 second, that's fine. We don't. By the way, we don't have to argue. We could just have a
discussion. No, I'm saying that I didn't. I just want you to respond to my point, because what I said very clearly was I didn't have a problem with him wearing a kfiah or that he was pro-Hamas. I didn't have a problem.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I preface that is that in what you're saying there is beauty, and that's where I think it comes together. Right. So. For me, also another example of how I looked at the situation is, let's say this guy. Okay, this guy is walking down. He's wearing a kfiah. He's shouting "Free Palestine" or whatever it is, and he sees a bacher walking with tefillin, and he asks the bacher, "Hey, could I put on tefillin?" He asks the guy, and the guy says, "No, you're wearing a kfiah. You're lost. You're this, that. Get out of here. I don't want to talk to you." That guy that's going to go home, that just asked for an opportunity to do a mitzvah, is going to go home and be like, okay, my people lost me. My people, I'm out. There's nothing I can do. There's no way back. Instead of, oh, what if that person says, yes, absolutely. And then he's going to go home and maybe have a realization of, wow, okay, sheesh. My people still love me. Is
that what happened there?
There's no way to know. We don't know what happened with this guy.
It's obvious that is not what happened.
How do you know? You don't know what his reaction was when this guy went home. And by the way, this guy could have seen.
It's obvious that this guy did not walk over to the Chabad shluchim and ask.
No, I know. I'm saying on the opposite way. Let's say that did happen, and the guy said, "No, I'm not putting tefillin on you."
That would be a mistake. Well, I don't understand. Like, I agree with you. What does that have to do with
Okay, so then
this?
the bacher went and put on tefillin on the guy.
But this guy did not ask for tefillin to be put on him. So
he didn't run away. He didn't run.
Literally, if you watch the video, is walking and showing zero interest of putting on tefillin. So you are basically just putting tefillin on a guy who has zero interest. Again, to me, and this is really where it comes down, like, I'm just looking at something and looking what I'm seeing without a bias towards it. I as I've said 100 times, put on, like, if the guy would ask, of course, by all means, put on tefillin on the guy. Like, of course, he wants to.
Intellectually, I think you could come up with many, many reasons, and you have come up and can still come up with many reasons why it's not a good idea to do that. And that's where I think there's that difference that we're having, is it's not about, if you're thinking about it through intellectually, the way Chabad's way is, we wouldn't get anywhere. We're not gonna. We wouldn't go put tefillin on
this actually goes exactly back to what I was saying. You're operating with majority emotion, when intellect is also necessary. Both pieces of the human are necessary to have proper decision making. So you're just saying, oh, we're just emotional, so we're just gonna go and do it. And I'm like, no, not every single situation that you just want to do something.
You're saying it's coming from. So you're saying that your reaction to that is that it shows that it's coming from Chabad's human emotion, that they're just showing emotion all the time. I think it's coming from the Pintele Yid. I don't know. You know what that means? The Pintele Yid, and that's where. Okay, I don't know the Chabad lingo and the not Chabad lingo. It's coming from a simple avas chinam, seeing a Jew and wanting to put tefillin on them, or wanting to give them an opportunity to do a mitzvah. I think you're saying, hey, you're feeling emotional about something. There's a time and place, and that's fine. I can see why you would say something like that. I could see why that would be your position. But when that's not where the bacher is coming from. That's not in general how Chabad has become Chabad. Chabad is not coming from a place of I'm going to intellectualize every single thing I do, because then they wouldn't have Makarov as many Yidden as they do.
So then I don't agree with the philosophy overall. That's what you're basically saying. Like if you're telling me that the outcome of how we get things done is that we're just gonna we can't differentiate between certain situations where things should not be done, even though we believe in the core thesis of them, then yeah, you're right. If that's the outcome, then I don't understand.
But
it doesn't make any. You should be able to use your better judgment in certain scenarios. So, if you guys can't train people that are certain scenarios,
let me ask you a question.
Let
me ask you a question. Yeah. Have you ever learned Chassidus?
A little bit. I wouldn't say I've learned a tremendous amount.
Have you spent an extended period of time in Chabad houses with shluchim, talking to shluchim, talking to Chabad people just in general.
Not an extended amount of time. I wouldn't say that. I've been, obviously overseas, Sukkot, Pesach, stuff like that. Spent some time, but nothing. I would not say significant. No.
So I think if based on your experience, I think it would make sense that you would have the position that you would have. And seeing it as for just simply emotion and we're not going to differentiate. I think if you spend more time learning what Chassidus is about and what the Pintel Yid and what the Neshama is, what's happening to the Neshama when a Jew, when you give an opportunity to a Jew to put on tefillin or to do a mitzvah, it's things that are happening there are stuff that
so this has nothing to do. So this is the disagreement. This has nothing to do with the Neshama or the Pintel Yid. I can make that argument about why in that case we should be able to put tefillin on any single person no matter what they're doing.
Exactly.
But that's not the truth or not the case in my opinion. That's what the disagreement is because we know there are many scenarios where you can't do that despite the Pintel Yid.
But we also know that there are scenarios but we know that there is a premise, there are premises where you could do those things.
I'm not sure which premises you're referring to. There's according to your thesis that the Pintel Yid.
In halach, what do you think the Shulchan Aruch meant by saying that just like in the physical danger of it's in Siman Shin Vav and Arich Chaim? What do you think the Shulchan Aruch meant, in your opinion, when they said that just like a physical danger you could suspend halacha, same thing in spiritual danger to save a Jew?
Again,
what do you think what he meant?
I have no idea, but I'm not a rabbi, and you're sitting here taking a leap of faith to say that is applicable in this particular case. That's my personal opinion.
But you're also saying that it's not permissible and it's not okay. So I'm asking you what you think the Shulchan Aruch meant by saying that.
I don't know. I'm not a rabbi. I'm not going to sit here and poskin on this particular case based on what the Shulchan Aruch
You don't have to poskin, just like you're using your imagination. Just using your imagination.
I have no idea what the Shulchan Aruch would say. I have no clue what he would say, whether or not you should put tefillin on this person based on pikuach nefesh. I don't know. Give him a drink of water. Let him say a bracha. I have no idea.
But I think you're also coming with it from a place of kind of knowing what's happening in the higher world. And kind of based on
it goes back a little bit to what I was saying before.
Based on how you're saying that there's a time and a place and there's this and there it only goes to a certain extent, makes me feel or makes people feel that you know what's actually happening in the higher worlds when a person is putting on tefillin. You're saying, it seems like you're saying that you know for a fact that this Jew that had tefillin on him while he was at a Palestinian rally had no effect on him. And even if you're saying it did have an effect, that effect wasn't worth it.
Perhaps, I have no idea. I'm just saying that according to your thesis, there should be no case in the Shulchan Aruch or any case in the world, right, where you should not put tefillin on somebody. You realize that?
No, that's not what I'm arguing.
Why?
Here.
So then why not? Because the Pintel Yid. Why not? The Pintel Yid, the Neshama. This goes back a little bit to what I was saying before. That to you, the only thing that exists is to you, whatever. In this particular case, is there's no focus on the mitzvah itself and the kedusha of the mitzvah itself. The only thing that exists is the neshama. There's no actual focus on the act. Meaning, the minute I tell you that the mitzvah is equal to the neshama or up there, right, in its greatness, is the minute you're going to stop telling me that the Pintel Yid, because this other thing is on the same exact equal footing to it. So, oh my God, right? But
that's a beautiful thing.
No, but what do you mean it's a beautiful thing? If I told you, right, that if tefillin, I have a question for you. If tefillin is on the exact same level or higher than the Pintel Yid, right, in your opinion,
no,
in theory, would you say that there's any scenario? I'm asking you a question. Would you, if that were to be the case, would you say that in every single scenario?
No, I'm not understanding. I don't think you're understanding my premise. I'm saying when somebody puts on tefillin,
yes,
the Pintel Yid automatically is having a reaction in him. When somebody is making Kiddush, when somebody comes to your house on Shabbos to make Kiddush, and that is not normally there.
Does that mean every single case ever you should be able to put on tefillin? That's my question to you.
Obviously, if there's places explicitly in halacha that say that you cannot, by all means, you need to ask your rav. You need to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and make sure you're taking the right steps. That you're not being a mibazbez, a mitzvah.
Okay,
for
good.
sure.
So that's
I'm not talking about every single case. I'm talking about the general attitude that somebody in Chabad or anybody that wants to put on tefillin. It's not a Chabad thing. It doesn't have to be a Chabad thing. Anybody who wants to put on tefillin and give another Jew an opportunity to do a mitzvah, that's where it's going. And I think that's where it can make people feel a little bit uncomfortable, because it's just going straight to what the source is.
I understand. It's not like I don't understand what you're saying. I'm just simply countering that there is a focus on the neshama and there's a focus of being mevazah mitzvah. a very big mitzvah. And you want to say that focusing on being mevaz of the mitzvah is not relevant. And I'm saying that I think there are
I didn't
certain...
say that. I just said you need
So
to ask your Rav.
I'm saying that I think there are certain scenarios, and that was one of them, where I personally believe, right, that the bizayon to the mitzvah overweighed the actual scenario that was going on. That's my personal opinion.
And my personal opinion is
You
that
disagree?
I
No
disagree, and
Beautiful.
that is actually a prime perfect example of somebody that's so lost.
Great.
To
I
have,
have, you know something? I have no problem with you disagreeing with me. My problem was never that. My problem is the inability to an emotional reaction from the entire Chabad community to hearing an opinion that was oppositional to what they've been just trained to think and just repeat
Do you feel
round
like,
and round and
do you
round
feel
and
like
round.
that this
That's
is?
all.
Do you feel like right now we're having a productive conversation, productive discussion?
Yeah, very much so.
And
I mean,
since then, and since that posting, since whatever, when you posted, have you not had any positive conversations with Chabad people?
I haven't had positive or not positive. I've just whatever. I know I don't normally. I actually did have one. I actually had one negative interaction. It's actually funny. I did, which is a whole different story.
Besides me.
Yeah. It wasn't even with me directly, but yes, I did. It was actually interesting.
Okay, no, but positive. Was there any positive?
Oh, was there a positive one?
Yeah.
Was there a positive one? I'm sure. I mean, I speak to Chabad people, so I'm sure I've had positive experiences. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so I
I'm not like, I mean, like, whatever. Like, to me, I don't normally have negative interact, despite what it may seem from this podcast. I don't normally have directly negative interactions. Like, if you're a normal person, you're able to have a conversation, then, like, sure, why not? We'll have a good time. We'll schmooze, we'll talk, whatever it is. I'm just saying that, like, the uproar and the inability to even comprehend how this particular scenario is mind-boggling.
Was there a part?
Crazy.
Was there a part from your position that you changed at all since it started, or starting to understand? Okay, fine, I could see why they would do that.
No.
On your end,
Not even a little. In that case, no, not even a little bit.
but
Zero.
in general, the idea of having alacrity to just go put tefillin on people.
I told you in the beginning of this conversation, I understand this. You have to understand something. I'm a Litvish person, but I understand I'm not sure if you were able to tell. I think it was pretty clear. Sometimes when people say things, you can tell that they actually understand. I understand the concept of the neshama and the soul. It's not like I'm a Litvish, cold, ice cold person that doesn't understand the gravity of the neshama and the weight that it holds. I do. I very, very much do. But I would still say that I could still see the other side of where it's not kulo one side or the other. That's all. Like I actually think this is the most balanced. Like, this is, to me, not a very controversial take. To me, this is a pretty common sense, straightforward take. It's like, dude, not every single scenario. Are you right? That's what I was saying earlier. Like, no, I'm sorry, Chabad. There are times that people are going to disagree with you, and you're going to have to keep you're going to have to keep your shit together. Like, just slow down. Everything's going to be okay, and that's it.
I don't think any Chabad people thought that you're going to start a crusade that you now can't go put tefillin on people. I think if anything, it really inspired more people to go and put tefillin on people.
I'm happy.
And to.
I mean, my point is that, like, I agree, but I agree with it that they didn't think it would inspire a crusade, which even begs the question even more so of why the inability to just either move on their merry way, like, oh, here's this schmuck who's just, having an opinion that we don't agree with.
I think for the most part, people probably did. It's
Oh,
not like
really?
you posted. Are people constantly messaging you?
You know how many views that video got? Are you freaking kidding me? On Twitter?
Which view? Which video?
My video, the thing I posted. I think it got 250,000 hits.
You posted a video?
This started on Twitter. So
Okay.
it was on Twitter. That's where it blew up.
Your tweet, you tweeted the video.
I tweeted the video and I wrote,
okay.
I understand this might be a controversial take, but I don't think this is respectful. It's disrespectful to the mitzvah. That's what I wrote. And you could be sure they took that bait so fucking quickly. Oh my fucking Lord.
I saw on Twitter.
If I ever want to just start a thing, I just have to say another thing negative about Chabad.
I saw
By the way,
on Twitter.
sorry for interrupting. You came out. Another thing also happened. This happened so many times. What are you kidding me? There was a video that went out on a podcast we did, like, I don't know, where we were talking about how Chabad women are super hot. Half your community blew the fuck up. They went nuts. How dare you objectify? And this is us saying the most positive thing of all time. Chabad women are hot. Could you even, I mean, that was like a compliment and you guys went nuts. I mean, Yeah.
Do you think?
That's all I'll
Okay,
say.
so let me ask you another question. Okay, do you think that is there any part of you that says
A lot of
things?
women are hot, by the way.
Is there any part of
Bravo.
you that is there?
Letting everyone know, I guess.
Is there any part of you that says things for the sake of controversy to rile up to rile people up to get for views, for clicks, to get your
That
to
I
get
don't
your things
believe in?
going? No,
That I'm not sincere, like that I'm not passionate
no,
about.
the
Like,
way you say things as opposed to saying something else or saying it in a more of a calm,
normally,
more of a calm way.
there are times that I will say something very bluntly because I think it's an important point that must be said.
Like, I'll give
so
you
I will make sure that people hear exactly.
I'll
the
give you an
point. Yeah,
example.
I'll do that.
I was just in Shabbos and
Not that I don't believe it. I just want to clarify that. I believe what I'm saying. Sometimes I'll just heighten the specifics of what I'm saying to make sure that the point gets across. I won't be as coddly about it. That's all.
fine. I was with somebody and they were talking about The View, and that The View was shitting on Van Jones for working with Trump and doing a criminal justice reform and doing the whole thing. And there were two people talking to each other, and I can't say their names, but they were both more. One of them is a centrist, one of them is more on the left. They were talking to each other, and the one on the left was like, "Why would they shit on Van Jones for working with Trump? Isn't that the point to work with people? Like, what do you mean?" And I was sitting there, and I said on the side, I'm like, "You're not going to tell me you're surprised that The View found a way to spit on that. There's no, you're not surprised. There's no way you're surprised. So I think with that, I don't mean to say it's the exact same thing, but
That's a big insult. To call me that I'm someone in The View, that's worse. You just doubled down. That's worse than that text.
No.
I'm not
I think, but to go, I think saying, what's it called? All Chabad girls are hot or whatever it is, that's going to get a reaction. That's going to,
I didn't even say this, by the way. It was a video, it was a clip. It's so funny because I didn't say it. It was a Chabad guy that said it. That's the funniest part about the whole thing.
That's where I feel like I want to make the distinction is I think a lot of what you're saying is like specifically with Chabad, but it's also the social media culture around it that people are just going to shoot a DM. All of our social media apps are created that way to create to get a response out of somebody, for somebody to say something. So what I'm saying is I think you're attributing 80-20 Chabad emotion, 20 social media. I think maybe it's more 60-40.
I'll say it this way. And again, I say both. Okay, I'll say it this way. I probably have 50,000 followers aggregated between platforms. I can say that I hear a lot of responses from a lot of people, and I've gotten to know people over time. Chabad is consistently, in regards to what I'm saying, the most unified and emotionally reactive to, and has the least ability to handle criticism by far. It's not close.
Also,
now, with that being said,
I want to say that
clarify.
Chabad specifically is on the platforms more potentially as a bigger percentage than other.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, okay. Sure. I'm not saying that's not true at all.
Okay, that could be part of it.
Again, I don't think that's a super contrary. Chabad is very, very unified. If you and I'm not comparing Chabad to the left, but it's the same idea, right? If in politics, if you have an opinion against the left, they're going to come at you much more than the right is going to be if some leftist says something. Like most of the people on the right don't really care. Like whatever. Like, I don't know, we're busy working, I guess. I don't know what we're doing, but we're not sitting there bitching, right? The left, if you say something, anything you say, they freak the fuck out. Oh my God, blah, blah, they all go nuts.
I would
and I'm not comparing Chabad like that.
I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah.
And maybe later you could tell me. I would love to hear
What's
more.
Great is that I have no problem.
I would love to hear more examples of this because examples of this where you're being canceled or Chabad people are out there trying to cancel people.
I'm not saying I'm being canceled. They're not calling canceling me. They just jump out of their shoes. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying they're trying to cancel me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they get
I did think that's where you were going with that.
No. I mean, honestly, no. I'd probably be. I mean, that would be. I'm not sure. That would be pretty bad if I got canceled. Like I think I would have had to do something really horrific to get officially canceled by Chabad. They're probably the most lenient with like what you could get away with. But no, I don't think that's the case. I'm just saying, as far as like just halting and jumping, like that's.
Can I ask you to go back to the thing before? I'm interested to hear this. Do you think that there is a premise in general? Okay, not saying specifically with this case, with the kafiyah in general, do you think that there is a premise that you could suspend halacha, or that you could just jump and go do a mitzvah with somebody at the risk of not keeping the halacha, or jumping on a halacha in order to go and do a mitzvah with somebody, that you feel like that person, you feel like that is a pikuach nefesh? Do you think that there's a premise in general in Yiddishkeit for that?
I think that has to be asked to a Rav.
In every case?
If it's going against halacha, sure. Of course.
Okay.
Can't just... I think I should
By
be
the
able
way-
to drive on Yom Kippur. Who the fuck are you to think that? I'm saying that's the basis of Judaism.
So you need to ask Rebbe. Fine. I think also just in general, the Rebbe did answer all these questions when the Tefillin campaign came out in general by the 6 Day War. The Rebbe did answer all these questions. The back of Likutei Sichos, Volume 2, the Rebbe answers.
Yeah, I hear you.
the Rebbe
I
answers
can't
all.
speak to that exact. I have not read Likutei Sichos. I'm very happily able to admit that.
So
and
the
also, the
point-
Rebbe could say it's
one
okay,
second.
and I could also go with a whole bunch of other people that would say it's not. by
Fine,
the way,
fine.
FYI.
The
So,
the
like,
premise, the point that I was trying to make is that I think, here, can I give you an example? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
My father was subpoenaed to a court to testify.
Tax embezzlement?
God forbid.
That's what every other Jew was.
No, it was actually
It's not applicable to your father. This is, if I had to bet, I'd just go with that.
But
yeah,
we
that's
hear.
it. Yeah.
He was to testify based on there was a divorce happening between an intermarried couple in the Chabad house, and he was subpoenaed to testify because they wanted to get the kid into a Jewish school. And the lawyer, Michael Cohen, by the way, Trump's old lawyer, who's self-hating Jew, was there in court, subpoenas my father, and in middle of
We
the
don't talk
court.
negatively about Jews, sir. We put tefillin on them.
Let's go, Michael. Yossi Farrow, get on it.
Yeah.
So, which by the way, he goes both ways. It doesn't matter. Tefillin,
Yossi,
you're
yeah.
woke, you're whatever it is, we got
He's
you.
good. He's good.
And he was subpoenaed to okay. And they asked Michael Cohen asks my father in the court. It says in Tanya, or it says in Chassidus somewhere, that the Jewish soul is higher than the non-Jewish soul. Do you believe that? And my father's response in that case, specifically based on what was going on in the trial and what I'm sure his counsel suggested him to say, is he said, and what he believes in, I'm sure, and he says, and which Abel could correct me if he wants to, I am not a expert on souls.
Okay. So
And Michael kept on pushing him. Well, it says this and it says that. And you teach this and you teach that, and he said, "You don't know what I teach in my Chabad house. I'm not an expert on souls." And he kept on going at this specific point, basically trying to show that this kid should not be in a Jewish school because they think they're better than everybody else. At some point, the judge piped in and told Michael to stop based on my father's answer, and said he's not an expert on souls, so you stop it, and he stopped. And I think the point that I got from that is that we don't know what can happen to a soul. We don't know. We're not an expert.
In fairness, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. You said this multiple times. I get what you're saying. And I also think that we don't get what it means to be Mevazah Mitzvah. I think that is true as well. And you don't either get that. So,
Say again,
and neither
say again,
do I.
say
I'm
again.
saying, like,
Go back.
you don't get what it means to be Mevazah Mitzvah.
What do you mean
And
I
we
don't
don't.
get?
I'm saying
you're saying we don't know
both,
the
yeah,
extent?
yeah, you keep on believing that there's no case, like you keep on saying I'm not an expert on souls, and that a person is that you take away any focus on on the value of the mitzvah and the kedusha of the mitzvah.
On the contrary, that's where the biggest kedusha of the
We're gonna
mitzvah
go
is
around in
happening.
circles. I think we've elaborated the points truthfully. Like I do. Like I said, it's not about an opinion as much as it's about the response and the inability to have balance, in my opinion, surrounding a 1% case.
I think
less than 1%.
I think in
1% case
order.
that happened to be
I
normal.
think in order for you, like you could have that opinion, of course, obviously, but I think without spending an extended period of time talking to shluchim who are on the ground everywhere in the world doing this and actually learning Chassidus, I think to say that Chabad people are not have an inability to say when they're wrong or to have this idea.
not saying
You're
they're
saying
wrong.
it based on social media answers that you're getting
Maybe.
based on a
No,
one-off
I mean,
story
whatever, it's just been
on
my experience.
October 9th, right 2
Maybe.
days after October
Maybe.
7th. I think you need to
What do you mean by
spend.
2 days after October 9th? After October 7th?
It was October 9th.
No, it wasn't.
think it was
Oh,
October 9th.
you're saying a year and 2 days later. Oh, that's what you're saying.
No. Meaning after this year, right after.
I just
like,
think October 7th. I'm busy thinking about that. I'm not thinking about this year's October 7th.
I think if you spend more time talking to shluchim that are that are out there, that are working with people, that are being challenged every single day by people in their community, by questions to Rabbanim every single day based on what they have to do
I'm not
in
even
their
talking
community,
about the shluchim here.
you will
I'm not
see.
talking about the shluchim even.
That's what I'm talking about.
But the shluchim are a small percentage of Chabad. There's a
They're
lot more
becoming
Chabad people that are not shluchim than that are.
Okay, and if you spend,
So I mean, listen. So
what I'm
maybe
saying
you're
is,
right.
I think it's unfair
Maybe.
to take the example off of social media and not spending more time, and also really what the philosophy is. Not that you're interested in it, but if you are, and you do want to know what Chabad's idea is, and also I think to say that, like, I understand what you're saying about the souls, and that a soul. I think also I didn't have really a chance to say what I'm saying, and
So
kind of
please go ahead.
to
I'm
elaborate
sorry.
on
I'm
it.
sorry.
No,
Please
but
go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's fine. You said you understand what I'm saying, but I think there's Tanya's 52 chapters. Chassidus has hundreds and thousands of books and letters about the neshama, about the nefesh elokis, the nefesh habahamis, and to say we just know what it is. And I think if you were to tap into that, and if we could tap into it now also, but tap more into that, I think you would understand more of the premise. And not that you're going to agree with it and say, I'm going to go put tefillin on a Kfiah guy, but that you're going to be like, okay, this Chabad guy, it's not that it's coming straight out of emotion and that he's going to, and he's not worried about being mevaza mitzvah. He's understands, he's learning Maimarim, he's going and he's literally just going at doing. There's a huge thing in Chabad called, the Rebbe always spoke about, called Hamaisa Hua Ikar. Just doing it is the most important thing. Just doing the mitzvah. You're having an opportunity to giving a Jew an opportunity to do it, that is the Ikar to do it. And obviously part of the mitzvah is Hiddur mitzvah and not being bevaz in the mitzvah. And I think the cases in which, God forbid, somebody could be mevaz in mitzvah and somebody wouldn't be being mevaz in mitzvah, like tomorrow morning, for example, I'm going to put tefillin on somebody who, a guy in our Chabad house reached out to me saying after October 7th, he felt like he wanted to be more involved. He told me he's Jewish. This guy put us in touch, and I'm about to go put tefillin on tomorrow. He actually happens to have tattoos. I'm not sitting there asking every single question. Does this guy, is he this, is he that? The answer that I asked.
Can we just focus on the difference between the two cases rather than trying to equate them? One guy is calling you up and asking you.
One second.
One guy is not.
You think I'm trying to equate the cases? I'm not trying to equate. I'm not trying to equate.
I
the
understand.
cases.
You're just giving me the overall.
The feeling of what we're learning, what we grew up with, to just go and you see a Jew and it's an opportunity for them to do a mitzvah.
No, it really is. It's
I
beautiful.
think
I like it. I'm not opposed to it.
I think that's where it comes from, and I think if you do spend more time learning about it, it won't be. I don't think you're going to understand it from a place of that they're just trying to be emotional and not being worried about being bevaz mitzvah. I think
the emotional response of that I was saying, I think you might have misunderstood, but it is getting late, so we have to roll. But the emotional thing I was saying more, you're conflating two things that I was saying. The emotional thing that I more was referring to was regarding any criticism that comes from them. That comes, and I was saying perhaps it's the fact that they're emotionally driven to just to help people do more mitzvos, etc. Maybe that is a commonality, a correlation with how they, because I was basically saying that there's also the other intellectual side to a decision that a human being makes. So because you were saying that they're so emotionally driven regarding the mitzvahs, I was saying maybe that's the same reason why they're emotionally driven, in their response to criticism. I'm not saying for sure that when they're doing the mitzvahs, it's only emotional. I'm not saying that. I was just making a correlation. Perhaps the two things are connected. I don't know that they are. I can say definitively that I'm my opinion is that they are very emotionally reactive, highly emotionally reactive to criticism in a way that I don't see as common in other sects.
So I think if you're basing that just simply on your social media experience with that, I think that's a very, very small level. The age level, I think you should also look at the age level. Like there's so many things that goes into that. Chabad is not like Chabad deals with criticism. Literally, our entire life is criticism. You're gonna have.
I understand, and that's why I see it all the time because it exists all the time. So
No, I'm talking about shluchim in their Chabad houses that deal with everyday life stuff that they're going through. They're involved in people's lives on a very, very deep personal level,
also
and they're
get-
being challenged by many, many different things. And I think if there was a general consensus in general that shluchim are very combative or that they're emotionally reactive to things. By the way, did you see Levi Shem Tov? One second.
I'm sorry, I don't want you to take what I'm saying too. I don't want anyone for that.
Did you see Levi
I'm
Shem
not saying
Tov?
they're combative if I
One
say
sec.
hello.
I have a question. Did you see Levi Shem Tov's reaction to the pro-Palestine reporter?
I don't even know who that is.
The Palestine News Network. I'm sure you've seen him on social media. He goes to Jews. He goes to kosher restaurants or whatever it is. He sees Jews and he says, "What do you think about Palestine?" And he just antagonizes.
Okay.
So there's a video of Rabbi Levi Shem Tov, who's the head shliach in Washington D.C., and he went over to him. Did you see? Did you see
did
this
not see
video?
this, no.
You should see the video. I think it's a perfect example of how somebody could come try to antagonize a Chabad shliach or somebody in general to get a reaction out of somebody. You see how he reacts. I think that was a perfect example of how shluchim and Chabad people.
I'm sure,
react.
I'm confident, I truly believe there are wonderful, wonderful Chabad people. I have no doubt about it. What I was just saying is a simple overall feeling that I get over the years. That's all I'm saying. And quite honestly, your response is very, very telling of that belief. That's all. I don't know. I've yet to ever receive such a thing. I'm just being honest. And it's a lot of similar things. I mean, that was worse. That was more intense. Hence why I said, come on. Because no one's actually asked to come on. The minute you asked, I'm like, sure, please. But it's similar. To me, look, it's not about having the differing of opinion. It's the fight to the death about a 0.1% case and inability to say, you know something, let me think about this for a second. It might.
Well, we just did that. We just did that here.
Yeah, but I'm saying.
And I'm the one that you're saying that you're using it as an example of somebody that reacted emotionally.
I mean, you did.
To you. It was more. We could go into more of where that came from. But if you're saying it comes
there's no. Again, there's no.
What does it have? What is my reaction?
Yes, because you're Chabad. Yes,
So
you responded to a negative. Okay, you have a bias. Let's just establish this. You're the son of a Chabad rabbi. Okay, you grew up in a shliach's home. Okay, your life was significantly impacted, every single fiber of your being, by this agenda of your father and his family and your whole family, right? So you have a bias built into this. Your response came off a comment that I made about Chabad. There is no better proof of what I am actually saying regarding this point that I'm making, because it wasn't just a random in the heat moment. If I would have said an opinion about Israel, you would not have responded to me about that. You would have been less emotionally reactive. You're emotionally reactive because this is something that is very, very personal to you.
Right. So
and you have a harder time.
That's fine, but
yourself.
you're saying it's very telling. Right before earlier, you said I think it's actually a great thing because the Chabad people are all together. So which one is it?
I said that there's a strength to having a midah and there's a negative to having a midah. It's a two-edged sword, like any midah, right? So being unified, right, is a midah in the sense where everyone could come together when there's difficulty and, obviously Yisrael and all that stuff. And being unified could be a negative midah where if you're not happy, then everyone could go anti-someone or anti-thing. Now, I'm not saying you're to be a victim, trust me. I'm just saying where you can't get out of your own way and you can't see outside yourself because you've been indoctrinated, because there's unity and that can exist. I'm not saying that exists in my world, it exists in Chabad, it exists in every world, by the way, right? People are indoctrinated by their own family, and it takes the typical person until they're 25 to even realize, oh, my own family has a whole bunch of fucking issues, right? And then you start realizing, you start walking outside of it. So the point is, the unity is in every midah, but it has two sides. That's all.
Have you ever? I'm interested. You could cut this out if you want. But have you ever taken?
I don't cut anything out.
Have you ever taken criticism from a follower or somebody in general in a constructive way and had reflection and kind of changed or reassessed, I guess, on how you?
It depends what you mean exactly by criticism. Meaning, like, there's certain
constructive criticism.
No,
like
meaning,
somebody's having a respectful conversation and saying, "Hey, man,
no."
I think."
So, first of all, for sure. I mean, there was actually a comment recently that I literally screenshotted and I sent to my team. I said, "This person has it right." Like a random comment. The person doesn't even know.
Can you say what the comment was?
I have to find it. It was basically the person saying that we are trying to. I believe it was on the Erica Nardini pod, Erica Ayers thing. I believe the person was saying that the Jewish market is not big enough for us. While we could take over the Jewish market, given our brand, we can't. It's not big enough for us to succeed. But we're still not a anomaly in the non-Jewish world. We're just another person in the non-Jewish world. So to succeed there, it's going to be much more difficult. Whatever. The person was basically making a point that at the time, assessing the situation. And I've obviously talked a lot with the people I'm close with regarding all the details of what's going on with the pod and the direction I want to take it in and all these different things. And I saw that. Yeah. So 100%. I mean, listen, if someone has a smart things to say, I'll listen. I'll hear what they're saying. I find that most people, I always laugh when I see people talking about decisions that people make. You know, you always hear people say like, and I learned this a lot as I've gotten more involved in politics, and thank God, been privileged to know certain other people that I have relationships with, is that you hear people talking about what this person should have done, what that person should have done, and once you understand that you literally know less than 10% of the decision, like all the details actually happening, you start realizing that like, I'm giving a response based on what, let's just say, the media is telling me. But if you make one phone call for me, let's just say, if I make a phone call and I say, yeah, no, none of that, all that's bullshit, by the way. That's press report we put out. That's none of what's actually happening, by the way, for the record. Like, this is actually...
You think behind the scenes of what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, people are giving me... No, I mean, that'll happen in politics right now. Like, literally. Like, I'll see something reported on the media, I'll call up someone that I know in the campaign, and I'll be like, is this what's going on? No, it's not what's going on. Oh, so what happened? Oh, really, the numbers are 40% more or less, whatever it is. So all of a sudden, it's like, you don't have all the facts to make a thing. So someone telling me what to do, let's say with the podcast, 99% of people do not understand any of the cheshbonos, do not understand any of the backstories. They're telling me to do A, B, and C. They don't realize it doesn't work for X reason. It doesn't work because of Y reason. If you knew all these facts, you would right away be like, oh, that's not going to work.
Not even just to do with the podcast, or like physically what to do. I'm saying just like, hey, I saw this is what you said, what do you think? I think it could have been said this way.
So it depends what. But there is a level, and I'm happy to share this, there is a component to where I am in the media space. I'm not in this space. See, I think this is perhaps what separates me a little bit. Everything I say I mean, and I believe. But I am in the media space where my job, I will accentuate my personality and my opinions to bring in viewers. There's no question about that. I believe what I'm saying, but if I'm having a one-on-one conversation with you, I'm not going to be as harsh. You know, like it's like what I said. There was one pod where I thought I said it on purpose. I said it on purpose, and I knew when I was saying it exactly what I said because I thought it was an extremely important point for the community to know. I said, as girls get older, it was one of the shidduchim pods that I did, the girls pods that I did, whatever. I said, as girls get older, I said, unfortunately, and it's very sad, this is exactly what I said. I said, as girls get older, their value goes down, and as men get older, their value goes up, right? That's a very, very, I can understand why that's hurtful for women to hear, but the problem is it's an extremely, extremely true statement. Despite what any single person wants to say, if you're a misogynist, I'm not a misogynist. I'm telling you the facts that women in our community have a very specific window of where they need to understand that just because you're getting dates from 20 to 25 and you think the world's at your oyster, it's not. And when you're 28, the same guys that were 30 and wanting to go out with you when you were 25 will not go out with you anymore. They will go out with the next 24-year-old.
So then what
and
happens?
As you get older,
I understand.
People freaked out. Naturally, you can understand. Whatever, people freaked out. How dare you say that, blah, blah, blah. Now, I could have said it in a very long, promulgated, blah, blah, blah way. But you know something? I wanted my point to be made, and I want the people to hear it because it's very, very true. And after that, it's not like I didn't follow up after I said that line. I explained why I feel that way. But it was a way to make sure that people heard the exact point because it's the truth.
So also based on that, what you're saying also, I think just with DMs, like even based on how this conversation went, what was your imagination going into how this conversation went and how it actually went?
Went exactly as I thought it would go.
The entire conversation?
What do you think I thought how it would have went? Like, I mean, like what? I didn't think we were getting into a fist fight. Like saying, well, what was going to happen? My thoughts on this topic extremely clear. I don't speak without thinking.
I'm talking about on a personal human level, right? You don't know. It's the first time we're meeting each other, correct?
Yes.
We don't know each other. We actually happen to have a bunch of mutual friends that I found out afterwards.
Look at that.
But you have a certain perception of who this human that just messaged me, because obviously you know that even if the energy that I came with my message. You know that there's a human behind that, and that they're like, okay, I don't know this guy, maybe this, maybe that. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I won't give him the benefit of the doubt. There's a human behind that. Based on that, and I think even just like with me and you, thinking about you, okay, how is that going to go? Okay, there's got to be a human behind this guy who I think is being divisive and is saying
honest,
things for the case of saying
I'll be
it.
totally truthful. I did not give this even 1 second of thought. This meeting, I just walked in from my office. I'm sitting. It's a very obvious conversation to me. There wasn't like much to be thought about on my end. I didn't spend a lot of time. It was obvious to me that you operated out of a reactive space. That much was clear. It was obvious to me that if you had any semblance of normalcy to yourself, you were going to apologize for your statement. So I expected both of those things coming in. And other than that, I figured we'd have a civil conversation, which I think we had. I knew what I would say on the topic because before I wrote my tweet over 7 weeks ago, or whatever the heck it was, I had already thought about what I was writing. So
the point of what I'm saying is you're saying that there's so much behind the curtain about what's going on, and I think it's the same thing about people in general. When you're interacting with people, when you have interactions with people, when people are reaching out to you or saying shit to you or calling you out or saying a certain thing, I think there's also a certain level of, okay, I'm just gonna write this off as and you have every right to. If people are reaching out to you and they want to abuse you with their words, fine. Like
Hold on a second. I get a lot of messages and a lot of people responding to me in the negative. Don't get me wrong. I signed up for this shit. I know how it goes. I'm not oblivious.
But I'm saying further than that. One second. I'm saying further than that there's a person behind that. There are people behind that with opinions and reasons, and there's so much about that. Okay.
And that is why I do not respond to any of them. I mean, your particular message passed the line and you asked to come on. So I said, no problem. Like, that was really what happened. There was nothing more to it than that. There's people behind everything. I didn't think there wasn't a person behind that. I understood there was, and I understood exactly what was happening, but there is an element that it's easy to, talk behind a keyboard. And, it's like the famous line, who was it? Mike Tyson, who said, everyone's willing to talk, they're just not ready to get punched in the face, right? Like, it's like, all right, no problem. Something, you want to come on and you're going to have all your strong takes, so come on, we'll talk it out. To me, my position on this is very clear. It's very obvious. And I am confident that a rational person hearing my position, right, will be like, that's not a crazy, crazy position. That holds merit. And that's honestly, I know that that's true. And that's very easy conversation for me to have. There was no point that I have any worries about that. Not before I said the tweet and not after you wanted to come on. It's a very straightforward, reasonable thing. So fine, let's talk. Like, what else is there to say? So now you hear my opinion on it. I am sure you can find, by the way, things in the firm world and the litfish world, in the world I grew up in, that I would be on your team if you told me that this, not so okay. I would be like, yeah, probably right. Because that's how life goes.
Okay, that could get into a whole other thing about holding people accountable from within Chabad. I think Chabad actually does an incredible job.
It's not about Chabad. I think we've hashed out the Chabad piece, or at least for sure for this pod. I'll be dreaming about Chabad tonight at this point.
Chabad girls.
Chabad girls for sure, always. That's every night. But yeah, that's the deal. Any other last things? Just because I know.
If you wanna call it, we could call it. There's a few more stuff, but we could keep that for another time.
Okay, let's keep it for another time. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. Really, I appreciate you coming on. Respect, guys. Hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave all your comments, of course. Though I'm sure you guys will do that anyways. Got another good episode coming next week. Peace and love.